Hello YouTube, and welcome to a Unity tutorial on creating an input manager that detects both mouse and keyboard movements and also input from controllers. For this tutorial I'm going to be focusing entirely on the input side of Unity, and I'm not going to be delving into code that actually moves a character. As you can see here, I've got a pre-made player controller script that I made earlier, and this is going to be handling all of my movement logic. The code I'm actually going to show you in this video is just going to interact with this script and call the correct functions from the correct inputs. So if you're looking for a video that actually does movement logic, I would advise maybe leaving this video, going to watch a video that can teach you how to do that, and then coming back to this one. So before we start on the actual coding, I just want to run you through the Unity input manager. To get to this input manager, you need to click on Edit, Project Settings, and then click on Input there, and then you'll see this screen. What the Unity input manager does is it detects any inputs and it converts them into a value positive or negative between -1 and 1, and it gives them a specific tag. The inputs for a particular tag can be customized and altered, and just as an example, I can show you that in the horizontal tab, we can change the name and stuff, and the positive button is given to right or D, and the negative is given to A or left. The vertical tab works very similar with S and W, or down and up. And together, these essentially handle input of like the standard WASD controls found in PC games. You may have noticed that there are two more tabs, horizontal and vertical, and these tabs actually control this exact same thing, but with joystick axis, as you can see from the type, from this little drop down, and the x-axis there, and then the y-axis there. They're here by default in Unity, and these don't need to be changed. We're going to be coming back to the input manager a bit later on, because there are some things we do need to alter in it, but for now the horizontal and vertical components are already exactly what we need. So we're going to get started on the coding now. So you need to make a new script. I've called mine input manager. You can obviously call yours whatever you like. Just open that up and we can get started. So the first thing we're going to do in the actual code, we're just going to create 3 public variables, and they're all going to be floats. We're going to have a joystick dead zone. I'm going to set that to 0.1. It's always good to set your public floats, just in case you actually forget to change them in Unity. We're going to have a public float joystick sensitivity, and we're just going to set that to 2 for now, and then we're going to have a public float that is the mouse sensitivity, and we'll set that to 2 as well. We're not going to be using these just yet. Just for now, we're going to focus on the movement. And I'm actually going to do the movement. I'm not going to do it in the update. I'm going to create an actual movement method just to keep everything separated and keep the code looking nice. So as we were talking about earlier with the input manager, we said that they return a value between -1 and 1. Oh, typed that wrong. And to get these values out, it's very simple. You just need to do input dot get axis, and then the tag that you gave the input. As you can see now, I've just done a float forward, so this will be forward and backwards movement. So we want the vertical axis for this, This will take in the W and S inputs, or the forward and back inputs on a controller. And we also want a float sideways that will take our input from the horizontal. So do the exact same thing, but just put in horizontal for that. And there we go. Now, one thing controllers suffer from that is quite annoying is sometimes after you wear and tear them, the joysticks on them don't always go directly back to the center. What I mean by this is, I'm sure you've had experiences where your controller's been a little bit off, or it's a bit broken, and your character always moves slightly, or keeps looking around in one direction a little bit because your controller won't go back to the middle. And we want to kind of clamp down on this. We don't want this to annoy the user too much, because most controllers have it. It's normally very minute, but it's always there. And Unity will pick this up, and we don't want it to affect the game. So what we're going to do is this value that we created up here, the joystick dead zone. That's basically how much we can allow the joystick to be away from the center before we start listening to inputs from it. So we're going to use this to alter the float values. So if I'm going to just put an if statement in, and we're going to say if the forward is less than the joystick dead zone, and the forward is greater than minus the joystick dead zone, then forward equals 0. Now what this does is, if the forward axis of your controller is between 0.1 and minus 0.1, it's going to set the forward to 0, and it's going to ignore all the inputs. And obviously this allows for the joystick to move, but you may be wondering, how does this affect the keyboard input? Well, because keyboard input is binary, it's either up or down, when using WASD, the forward can only either be 0, 1, or -1 when using W and S, so we don't have to allow for that. And with the joysticks, obviously this is just to combat any movement that we just discussed. So this should fix that problem if it ever came up. And we have to do the same with the sideways. So what I'm actually just going to do, just going to copy and paste this to save a bit of time, and change that to sideways, and then similarly sideways equals 0, like that. Now in my script that I've already made, the player controller, I have a movement function that's public, and it just takes in a vector 3 of the direction you want to go in. In the function, the direction gets clamped, so we don't need to worry about like increasing or decreasing our forward and sideways values. So I'm just going to create the vector 3, a new vector 3, sorry. It's called, I'll call it direction actually, and this will be the direction we're moving in, and this will be a new vector 3 that is simply just our sideways movement in the x-axis, no direction in the y, and our forward and backwards movement in the z-axis, like that. What I actually quickly need to do is add in the player my script that I've done. So I'm just going to call that player, and in the start I'm just gonna player equals game object dot find object of type player controller, and this will get my script, and then that will allow me to just call the necessary function. So that's my movement, pass in my direction, and there we go. I'm just going to build this, go back into Unity. I think I actually need to attach the main camera to the player. Press play, hopefully this will work. And it hasn't, of course it hasn't. So what I'd actually forgotten to do was just call the movement function here, a very silly mistake. Just build that, hopefully this should work now. Yeah, you can see he's moving left and right, forward and backwards. Now this is just with the mouse, the keyboard, sorry, at the minute. So I'm just going to pick up my game controller. And yeah, now I'm moving with my game controller. So you can see the horizontal and the vertical works for both mouse and keyboard, which is perfect. Obviously you can try this at home to just make sure yours is working, and if you have any problems just let me know in the comments. Right, now for the last little bit, we need to do obviously looking around with our character. So we're going to get the inputs of the right analog stick, which is a little bit different for the controller. So we're going to go back into our input manager, and as you can see, the mouse X and the mouse Y, that's already put in for us. But what we want to do is we want to duplicate both of these. So if you just right click and click duplicate array element, you'll get another mouse X. And what we're going to do, we're going to rename this to right joystick X. Obviously, again, rename it to whatever you want. We're going to change the type to joystick axis because it's our right joystick. And instead of X axis, we're going to click on this and you get a huge drop down menu here. Now, if you do some Googling, you can find out what all these different axes are, but we're going to use the fourth axis, which is the X axis of the right joystick. And we're going to change the sensitivity up a bit, I think. We'll change it to 5. And you'd want to do, you want to do the same for the mouse Y. Just quickly. So, oh, come on. Right joystick Y. Change the sensitivity to 5. Change it to joystick axis. And it's the 5th axis we want for the Y. And then that should give us what we want. Now, for the looking around, we're going to go back into our functions here, and it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to create another method, and this one's going to be rotation. And once again, we want to get our floats, so we'll do rotation X equals input dot get axis, and then for this we're actually gonna get the mouse X. The way I'm gonna work, we want to do the same for Y as well, so I'll just do this quickly before I explain what the plan is. So what I'm actually wanting to do for my rotation is I'm going to have it that if you are rotating with the joystick, it will overwrite any rotation you do with your mouse. So that means if I'm moving the mouse left to right like this, our character would be shaking his head. But if at the same time I'm making him swivel with my joystick, then the mouse movements get ignored, just in case. Obviously when you're playing with your controller while you're sat at your computer. Sometimes you knock the mouse accidentally and that can mess things up. So we can try and avoid that. And what I actually need to do is times this value by the mouse sensitivity we've declared. Obviously this value will be this is more of a settings preference for the user, so you want to make this value changeable in like a menu or something, but that's not too important at the minute. And then if what we want to do is we want to check if there has been an input from the controller. So we're going to do input get axis right joystick X, and normally what you might think to do would be, if this doesn't equal 0, then we would do rotation X equals input dot get axis right joystick X. So that's what you'd expect to do. And then obviously you would times this by the joystick sensitivity. But the other thing we need to do, if you remember from here, we need to add in the dead zones. So we want to do, if the joystick is greater than minus the joystick dead zone, and it is get axis right joystick X is less than joystick dead zone, then we would do that. And it's the exact same thing for the Y. So you can just copy and paste that in, change all the X's to Y's, like so, and you want to change that to Y as well. And then I'm going to create a vector 3 rotation. Now my play control script also has a function to handle rotation, and similarly to my movement, you just pass it in a vector 3 and it handles all that logic. But for this one, the X value you want to be 0. The rotation in the, or for me anyway, the rotation in the Y is going to be the rotation X, which obviously doesn't sound like it makes much sense. And then the last one will be rotation Y. And this will be different depending on whatever your rotation logic actually is. And I'm just going to do if rotation doesn't equal vector 3 dot 0, then do player dot rotation, and then pass in the vector 3. This is just an efficiency thing, so if there isn't any rotation, then you don't bother calling this function because there's no need to. And I should probably do the same with movement actually. So if direction doesn't equal vector 3 dot 0. In fact, for movement you might not want to do this. If your because my movement handles gravity, so I do want to call this every update. So I'm just gonna leave movement as it is, and I'm gonna remember to put rotation in here this time. I'm gonna build this, go to Unity, press play. Oh, we've got a input axis mouse X is not set up. Maybe I have put in there's a space in there. That should be right now, hopefully. No. So what I'd actually done this time, I always suffer from problems, I just did some stepping through. These are the wrong way around. If you change that to positive, and then that is, oh, actually, this might be a or. You want an or statement. Yeah. So for this one, instead of checking if it's between the dead zones, you just want it to be outside of them. Like that. Hopefully this will work. I'm sure it will. Minus there. Build this. Oh, please work this time. There we go. As you can see, like if I move my mouse up, it looks down. Obviously, some players play like this, but I don't. So I'm just gonna go to Edit, Project Settings, Input. There'll be mouse Y. Click Invert, and I'm going to do the same for the joystick. And there we go. So this is with the mouse, as you can see. Now I'm just going to pick up my controller, and I can look around like with this now. Actually, with the controller, I'm pushing my analog stick up now, and it's looking down. So I'm not sure if it's the other way around. It might be the other way around with joysticks. Yeah, it is. Like, I prefer to push my analog stick up to look up and push down flat. Obviously, this is player preference, so you can cater for that. But now I'm moving around using only my controller. You can see my mouse is stationary on the screen, and I'm still spinning around. Now I'm going to move my mouse, and you can see he moves around. And just to show you what I was talking about with the order that we've done it in, I'm going to move my mouse from left to right. As you can see, my character is looking around, and now I'm going to start moving my analog stick to the left, and as you can see, the analog stick gets priority. And there you go. So yeah, this will be the end of the tutorial. I've shown you all the basics of what you need to do for the player controller to get both movement. If you want to do other things like the jump function, this is a space bar that does a jump. You can do this with anything. You just duplicate the array element. You can leave it the same thing if you want. You just need to change this to the necessary buttons. So if you go onto the Unity website, they have a big list of all the inputs that you have, or they have in their system, and what buttons map to which buttons on a controller. So you just need to have a look through there and do whatever you please. I would highly recommend, as you've probably seen, I have my input manager, and I'm just calling functions on this player controller. I would highly advise doing that for everything, really. You want to compartmentalize, is that the word? Your different logic, because that way, every time that a new method of controlling a player comes out, so if there's a new piece of hardware, maybe like VR is going to be a new thing, instead of altering all your player controller logic, all you need to do is come into Input Manager and account for one more form of control. So I'd always advise trying to keep things as separate as you can, but obviously it's your prerogative. And I'm just gonna finish with the camera over these two functions, because I know I haven't really gone over them. But if you're wanting to use my method, you might need to copy those functions. So if you need to do that, just pause the video here, look through, and you can see what needs to be done. But yeah, I'm going to end that video there. I hope this video has helped. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you have any requests for any tutorials, anything you might be struggling with, feel free to get in touch, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.